20% of the world's oil flows through a waterway narrower than the drive you make to the grocery store. And right now, that waterway is a war zone. Brent crude just ripped from the low 70s into the triple digits per barrel. Ceasefires are announced, then they're shredded in a week, and then tankers are seized, and then blockades are reimposed. And so here's the question every investor is asking me out there right now: is this the shock that finally tips the U.S. into a recession? And I'm going to give you a clear answer. There's no hype, no doom, and by the end of this video, I'm going to show you the exact 3 traits that separate companies that get crushed in an oil shock from the ones that come out the other side stronger and richer. So let's go. A war halfway around the world shouldn't touch your grocery bill until oil gets involved, and then it touches everything. And here's the chain reaction. Oil spikes, gasoline follows, shipping costs balloon. Every business that moves a physical thing, which is most businesses, passes that cost straight to you. Suddenly you're paying more at the pump, more for eggs, more for plane tickets. Your paycheck hasn't moved an inch, and that's a squeeze on the consumer. And then it gets worse. The Fed sees inflation reheating and just shelves all the rate cuts everybody's been praying for, and the rates stay higher for longer, mortgages stay expensive, businesses delay hiring, consumer spending wobbles, and we got from oil shock to inflation to sticky rates to slower growth to recession risk, and that's the chain. And we've watched this movie 3 times already. 1973, OPEC embargo, deep recession. 1979, Iranian revolution, another deep recession. 2008, oil at 147, economy rolls over. Oil shocks don't always cause recessions, but they're often the match that lights the fuse at exactly the wrong time. Now, before you liquidate your portfolio and go bury cash in the backyard, just hear me out for a second. Plenty of really smart people think this war in Iran is not going to tip us into a recession. America is not the America of 1973. We are now producing 13.5 million barrels a day domestically. It's very near a record, and we only need to import a net 4 million barrels a day, and we're covered, and we can get that from Canada. Man, we are not hostage to Mideast oil in the way we used to be. And second, markets are forward-looking. A lot of the risk is already baked into the prices out there in energy futures, bonds, stocks, and so on. So this sudden shock isn't going to happen. It's already baked into the numbers, and we're just going to end up with a slow grind. And third, and this one matters, oil probably has to park itself about above 140 or so and stay there for a sustained stretch to truly break the economy. So volatility in oil prices is not the same as broken. And fourth, the underlying economy is still cranking. It's still got meat on the bone. Employment's holding. Corporate balance sheets, at least for really good companies, are solid. So the honest answer is this. This could tip us into a recession, sure. Or it could fizzle into another painful but survivable bout with uncertainty. Anyone telling you they know which one is going to be is selling you something. So here's the good news. You don't need to know. Trying to predict whether oil hits 160 or 80, it's a loser's game. Come on. The Fed can't do it. Goldman Sachs can't do it. I've been doing this for 40 years and I can't do it. And neither can you, neither can Buffett. No, you don't know. Rule 1 investors are playing an entirely different game, you guys. We don't sit in a flimsy tent and try to predict the weather. We're building a brick house that can handle any weather. And that means owning wonderful businesses that we bought at the right time when the prices were attractive. And in an environment like this one, wonderful has 3 very specific traits. And I promise these up on top, and here they are. Trait number 1, that business has a fortress balance sheet. In a slowdown, weak balance sheets get exposed kind of the way a low tide exposes the rocks, right? Companies that are drowning in debt, that's what makes a weak balance sheet. Can't service it when the cash flow dips. So you want piles of cash. You want debt that's small relative to free cash. You want interest payments that don't eat the profits alive. The simple test is, if you see that revenue drops 30% tomorrow, would this business survive comfortably, or would it be on the phone with their bankruptcy lawyer? Apple is textbook. They've got massive cash, they got debt, they got massive free cash flow, and a recession won't threaten their existence. They can pay it off quickly. They don't have to worry about going bankrupt. It just threatens competitors who are weaker, and that's the difference. All right, trait number 2 is a moat, a really durable competitive advantage that's intrinsic in the company. This is the thing that we obsess about for a reason. A moat means the business can raise prices when the input costs rise, and the customers are going to stay anyway, doesn't matter. Coca-Cola, sugar gets expensive, aluminum gets expensive, shipping gets expensive, they raise the price of the can by a dime, and I still buy it. That's pricing power. And pricing power is the gold standard in an inflationary environment. That's what you got to have. So compare that to a no-moat commodity business. When their costs rise, they cannot pass them on. Margins collapse. The stock gets cut in half. Man, you don't want to own that in 2026. All right, trait number 3, management you'd actually trust with your money, because in a crisis, capital allocations decisions are the whole ball game. A great CEO is going to use a downturn to buy back their stock super cheap, acquire weaker competitors for pennies on the dollar, and they're going to come out the other side with more market share than they went in with. Now, a lousy CEO, they're going to panic, they're going to destroy value. So a company with all 3 of these things, fortress balance sheet, wide moat, great management, doesn't need you to predict Iran. It endures Iran, and often it uses the chaos of something like Iran to get bigger and better and more profitable while everybody else is running for the exit. Now, this is bottom-up investing. You start with the individual business, its numbers, its moat, its leadership, and you ask one question. Would I be happy owning this company for the next 10 years, regardless of what oil does or what the Fed says or what Trump does or what the market does? This is the Buffett way. And this is the rule number 1 way, and it is the single biggest reason that the best investors in the world sleep great at night while everybody else is refreshing the news. And here's the real payoff for learning these simple rules. In a recession, great businesses go on sale even though they're getting stronger and better, and that's when we buy them. Now, this is the way you want to invest if you're tired of letting CNBC headlines kind of dictate your stress level and you want to confidently own attractive businesses at wonderful prices. Hey, guess what? I think you should be at our next 3-day workshop. I teach it with my whole team. We've now walked over 30,000 students through this exact framework, and it is actually genuinely life-changing for amateur investors. It's hands-on, it's practical, there's no filler, we don't sell anything, and yes, it really does cost less than a decent pair of sneakers. And the link is in the description. The QR code's on your screen right now. Spots are limited for the next session, so grab yours today. And remember, oil will do what oil does. The Middle East will do what the Middle East does. The Fed will do what the Fed does, and none of that's under your control. What's under your control is the quality of the business you own and the price you paid for it. Focus on the business and the price, not the noise. Now get out there and go play.